out of her own mansion. Zoe Kravitz and Harry Styles get engaged after 8 months, and the engagement ring tells you everything you need to know about the prenup nobody's talking about. Shannon Elizabeth filed for divorce 2 days before launching an OnlyFans page that pulled in $1.2 million in week one. I am not a subscriber, for the record. And California's community property rules are about to get interesting. Kimora Lee Simmons' estranged husband also filed for divorce from federal prison and is asking her to pay him support and cover his legal fees. Welcome to the I Just Want This Done Divorce podcast. We want prenup. And now, The Wedding March by Queen from the greatest movie ever made, Flash Gordon. Okay, if you've never seen that movie, you got to watch because the whole soundtrack is by Queen. If you've never had a wedding march done by Queen, you should. Any of you folks out there getting married, see if you can convince your wife or husband, future, to use this. I mean, that's pretty awesome, isn't it? Okay. So just me today, folks. Rayford Palmer, the attorney, so special. He has 3 names. My mom loves my middle name, so it's Rayford Dalton Palmer. Also my son's first name, by the way. So we're here. We're live. We're worldwide, coming at you with a fully loaded show. Rahul couldn't make it today under a time pressure project for one of our clients. So we've got to get this done solo. But since I'm a broadcast professional, I'm here to help you out. Okay, let's get right into this. So we got Mother's Day behind us, everybody. Hopefully you got something nice for your mom. And remember, the best thing you can spend on your mother is time. So that's a quote from my dad, Doug Palmer. He says it about children, but it's also true about your family. Spending time is the best thing you can do. So hopefully you took care of your mom, got some flowers and stuff, and spent some time with her. And I wish all the moms out there happy Mother's Day. We can't do it without you. We wouldn't be here without you. Okay. Summer custody schedules are about to kick in. We got school ending. We've got kids coming back from school, summer break. You got those summer vacations. You got to check your custody orders. They sometimes say you have to give notice about your vacation plans ahead of time to your ex. So be sure to do that. Check your orders. Hopefully you don't have to look at the orders and you're getting along well with your ex. So you don't need to do that. So hopefully that's the case. Hey, check us out at STG Divorce Law for consultations. If you are thinking about getting divorced or you need to get divorced in Chicagoland, we represent smart, successful people getting divorced in Chicagoland. That's STG Sierra Tango Golf, STG Divorce Law. We are at stglawfirm.com. And remember, I'm the author of the best-selling divorce book, I Just Want This Done, How Smart, Successful People Get Divorced Without Losing Their Kids, Money, and Minds. The book that gave this show its name. Hold on, I got an example here. This is the book. It is not just another boring divorce book. It is the key to people getting divorced. This really gives you the guide for the planner out there, the person that wants to know the inside scoop. This is not some vanity project that's like 90 pages full of junk about child support. This is all the scoop about why the system is the way it is, how to beat the system and do well in your divorce and understand what's going on and make better choices. I Just Want This Done. 9,000 copies sold, which is epic for a nonfiction book of any kind. On Amazon, Kindle, Audible, and where all great ebooks are sold. I narrated it myself because I'm the guy who wrote it. So I've got the passion. I understand what I'm trying to say. It's better than having AI narrate it or something like that. So check it out. You will like it. Your friends will find it valuable. I tell a story about a real client in every chapter, and I tell my story because I got divorced too. So check it out. It's the real thing. People read it cover to cover, and well-known folks out there, Eric Pacifici, famous business attorney, Josh Kaufman, who wrote the Personal MBA. They love the book. You will too. Okay. Let's get right into it now. We got, this is wild story, okay? So what happens when you are neglecting getting your kids to school on time? It may seem like a minor issue, but it can add up to a big deal. And we've seen stuff like this add up in cases we've handled, but get this. Drew Sidora from Real Housewives of Atlanta, she's 40 years old. And we got the TMZ story here and a couple other links to some other stories. they're always in the show notes. So estranged husband, Ralph Pittman Jr., he's 43, a music consultant. They've been divorcing since they filed in March 2023. It's been going on a long time, living in the same Georgia home with Ralph in the basement. On April 10th, the judge issued a temporary order awarding Ralph primary physical custody during the school year. Why is that, you say? Well, it turned out that there was evidence that the kids were absent on an excessive amount, missing a lot of school, and they were tardy quite often when they were in the mom's care. So she was actually ordered to leave the home by May 31st, which is coming up here in a couple of weeks as we record this show. And the judge denied Drew's motion for reconsideration. So you can, when there's motions decided in a case, you can ask a court to reconsider it. And the only way you can do that is if you think there's a legal error made by the judge in the ruling, not just I didn't like it, but you have to have a legal reason, or like a law or something that the judge made a clear mistake, or there's some facts that have come to light due to no fault of your own since the ruling that would change the court's decision. So it's very rare. Judges rarely grant motions to reconsider, as you might imagine. It's kind of like trying to get a second bite at the apple. So that motion was denied, and she then filed an urgent petition. So she filed a petition claiming that the husband beat their son in 2024. She submitted a video, and she claims he admitted to it in 2024. These are all things reported in the story, but denied it in a March 2026 hearing. He denied the abuse. The court didn't modify custody. And here's something, I think there's an important teachable moment with this. The court is always going to go with tangible issues with the child versus allegations. So just saying this guy hit the child without further evidence is not going to go very far, versus evidence of continued absences where you have proofs from the school showing the kid's absent all the time. So just people ask us all the time, well, my wife's is going to claim that I beat up the kids or whatever. People do horrible stuff in these cases sometimes. And they say, well, they're going to make up all this stuff. And you have to tell them they need evidence. It's not just enough to say stuff happened. You got to have other witnesses, video, photos, whatever, documentation. If there's injuries, we need medical records, some way to substantiate these claims, or an admission from the person who's accused of doing something, or you're not going to go very far. Judges see this stuff all the time. It's not judges' first rodeo. So when judges know, like a naked allegation, when they hear it, they're not stupid. So just saying, they beat the child 2 years ago and he admitted it. Well, to her, she claims, then there's no evidence. So that went nowhere. Apparently, there's another 8-year-old child involved. She also alleged that Ralph cheated on her. They're behind on a mortgage and some other stuff. So that, by the way, I don't know Georgia divorce law, that the infidelity doesn't matter in a lot of states. It's not an issue. And I'm talking about legally, not morally or cosmically, folks. In Illinois, it has no impact. In fact, you can't even plead it anymore. And in some states, for example, like I know South Carolina for sure, it's a big deal and you can lose alimony and stuff if the person who's been the cheater can financially get penalized. So the custody flip is the story that people aren't going to really track here. And she lost primary custody because of school absences. That's a big deal. It's not a punishment, because you got to remember the court is not thinking about this from the parent's perspective. The court is always looking out for the best interest of the child. That's true in Georgia. It's true in Illinois. So the court's looking at what's best for the kid. Well, it wasn't meant to reward dad. It's not meant as a punishment to mom. It's like I'm going to give the father a chance to get this child to school on time because mom's not getting it done. And had the mom gotten the child to school, and it wasn't a tripwire thing, it's multiple occurrences over a lengthy period of time. 2 or 3 days late is not the issue. You're talking about a repeat pattern and practice. So that is, if the judge must have thought it was very serious to switch primary custody to the father here. Illinois angle. So let's talk about Illinois briefly. a statute called 602.7 is part of our custody law. We have those best interest factors. There are factors the court considers for allocating parental responsibility, which is what we call custody, and parenting time, which everybody calls visitation. Educational stability is part of it through factors like child's adjustment to school and community, willingness of each parent to facilitate a close relationship with the other parent, each parent's involvement in the child's caretaking, et cetera. So the court takes these things into consideration. And every state has similar factors to determine this. And by the way, the abuse allegations came after the custody loss, not before, which is, as the kids say, sus. So living in the same house during divorce is a recipe for this kind of fighting. If people are acrimonious, you're going to see this kind of stuff. Basement living arrangement, I'm sure he's not loving that. Husband walking upstairs to get kids ready for school. This is going to cause a dysfunctional environment by design. The longer the cohabitation occurs, you create a pattern, and it's harder and harder to break that pattern. Now, this other thing about that people ask all the time, well, I don't want to move out because I'll lose a claim to the children. There is some truth to that, especially with young kids. If you move away and don't see them often and kind of abandon the children, then it could be used against you if it's an extended period of time. If you move away, but you're not too far away and you're going to ask for substantial parenting time, that's reasonable. And it's not going to be held against you. But if you are in the suburbs here and you move 30 minutes away and you're just never seeing the kids, even though the kids are available to you, that's going to be a problem. And it's likely you're going to establish a pattern that will continue and probably be turned into the eventual custody or visitation order. So you have to be careful. Okay, so your question really is here. We're going to talk a little bit of the deep dive is what to look out for this thing. How much truancy is too much? How much absent from school is too much? We'll talk about that in the strategy session later on in the show. Okay. Next, and I got to take a drink of water for this, folks, because I'm doing this solo. The editor will take this out. For you watching the live stream, please enjoy a beverage of your choice. Thank you. By the way, please review the show. Give us a subscribe, like, share. That's how we know you like the content, and we keep doing it for you. We're not getting paid for this. We do this for you, and we enjoy doing it. But let us know what you think, and give us your comments so we know that you like what we're doing here. We try to tie these real life stories because the celeb stories are interesting in and of themselves. We like to tie them to real life things that help you by translating them into actionable intel for you. So not just telling you the snarky story, but that's fun, but how does it tie to your life? Zoe Kravitz and Harry Styles engaged after 8 months. All right. Congratulations, Zoe Kravitz and Harry Styles. Zoe's 37, Harry 32. Robin the Cradle, Zoe. Shocker.
Brother,
I'm kidding. Hey, it's now they call it, okay, it's not even a May-December romance, right? So back when I was a kid, my mom would say, oh, it's a May-December romance. Well, meaning like typically it's an older guy, right? And a younger lady. Well, this guy's only 5 years younger. That's not a big deal, right? But 37 and 32. So here we go. Confirmed engaged April 27th after dating 8 months. Okay, that's pretty reasonable. We talk, some of our rules on the show are dating about a year, getting engaged about a year is about right. After that, you already know if it's marriageable material or not. So you start dragging it out past then. It's like, are you serious or not? You just put, are you just put me on here? Are we just going to drag this out and never get married? You wonder. Okay. They reportedly shared the news with a small circle first. Engagement photos surfaced. Let's look at the story here. Let's see if we got a picture of the ring here. Okay, I'm going to share the screen with you. This coming to you from, let's see. Let me make sure I can share this. Here we go. Okay, check this out. So we got Zoe puts her 9-carat diamond engagement ring, estimated cost 500 grand, on display after Harry Styles' proposal. Thank you to InStyle, by the way, at Y Entertainment. So they got engaged. She was showing off her ring, spotted wearing it in New York City. Okay? We want to see this. Zoe Kravitz, officially engaged woman, planning to walk down the aisle after dating for 8 months. Good for them. Okay. Shared it with a small circle. I guess we don't have the mandatory IG post. Kravitz engagement ring appears to be an emerald or Asher cut diamond. I don't know what an Asher cut diamond is. According to Olivia Landau of The Clear Cut, 6 to 9 carats. Holy macaroni. Oh, I just screwed this up. Hold on. Let me go back. Here we go. Okay. So could be $500,000. They gave him the upper estimate. So could be 150 grand though. Well, what if it's like a CZ? I don't know. I shouldn't be knocking my man Harry. From the photos, this appears to be a classic traditional style ring. Okay. Cool. Going classic. 37-year-old actress paired her new accessory with a loose-fitting gray sweater. Is that this? I guess it is. Slouchy black pants. All right. Going with the baggy look. Black shoes, a yellow net purse, and black baseball cap with Boy Next Door written on it. In a recent outing with Styles. Can we see this? We want to see this. Oh, wait. Here we go. Boy Next Door. All right. For those of you watching the show, this is the best way because I can show you this stuff. These ads keep popping up. So this is GQ. Credit to GQ for this. Oh, excellent taste in niche caps. What does his say? She's got the Boy Next Door hat. Pretty cool. Let's see. He appears to have a logo flip. Court of Gramercy wines around the edges. Okay. Blah, blah, blah. It's not the kind of cap it's the cap you wouldn't come across unless you're in very, very specific circles, says GQ. Okay. But we're getting off topic. Sorry. All right. Back to Zoe. They sparked dating rumors in 2025. Oh, so they've been dating a while then. I bet. So maybe not 8 months. Okay. Well, anyway, folks, that's the scoop on that. Let's see if we got anything else here. I'm going to stop sharing. So let's see. Harry's never been married. She had what the news sources refer to as high profile relationships with Olivia Wilde and Taylor Swift. For you Taylor fans, Kravitz comes from family money. Lenny Kravitz, who is amazing, by the way, great guitar player. I loved Lenny Kravitz. Lenny Kravitz's daughter, the Batman, Big Little Lies. Styles has a net worth of over $125 million. Now they say, well, 8 months is fast. Okay, now I didn't know this. She walked away from a high-profile engagement to Channing Tatum less than 18 months ago. Huh, okay. This is kind of like textbook prenup territory, folks. So got major earners. She's been jumping around with different dudes, and he's been with other women, high profile. Time for a prenup. We want prenup. We want prenup. And so they're going to need to definitely have their prenups that like carve out their music catalogs and their premarital assets. And they should be really careful about that. Also, I always recommend you need an estate plan or to modify your estate plan when you get married also. So it requires competent estate planning and a prenup. Always good to talk to your wealth planner also. And these folks all have family offices or fractional family offices because all of these things come into play with this stuff. Okay. Also probably NDAs, non-disclosure agreements, because they're public figures and they want to keep their personal stuff private. The ring is, we have the Taylor Swift ring was like $1 million plus. Halle Berry's was like vintage, one of a kind thing. We talked about these in previous episodes. An understated ring, could be that they're a little more on the down low. But I mean, for the rest of us, 150 to 500 grand is not mellow or down low at all. So I guess the question remains, will they actually marry, or is this going to be one of these like permanent engagements? So The question always is when you get a ring, is there a date? Where's the venue? Is there a wedding date? And when they go, well, I don't know, it's nothing. And then months go by, you're like, not so sure. Okay, so speaking of dating timelines and that kind of stuff, our next story is what happens when somebody, a high net worth person, doesn't lock in a prenup conversation. Okay, so here we go. And let's tie this into OnlyFans. Okay, this will get your attention. Shannon Elizabeth, let's check this story out. We're going to get the scoop on this. I want to get the scoop on this from, we got this extra story. Here we go. Let's look at this one, folks. Shannon Elizabeth opens up about divorce from Simon Borchert. Well, that's a horrible outfit he's wearing, but okay. She looks good. All right. Shannon Elizabeth, 52, husband Simon Borchert are divorcing after 5 years. Oh, boy. U.S. Us Weekly reports the actress filed for divorce days before announcing she was joining OnlyFans. All right. Where's the applause? First thing, we do this, and then here we go. Yeah. Congratulations, Shannon, for doing the OnlyFans. I don't know. You're going to appeal to a certain, I guess, segment who's going for the 50 and over crowd, but you do look good, who knows? So okay. She says, I've been separated until September of last year. This has been a thoughtful, ongoing process. I guess the OnlyFans plan was too, because she launched it right after she filed. Star of American Pie. The meaningful pieces are behind me. The formalities remain. Okay. She's excited about her next chapter. Met the guy in 2015, married in 2021. She announced via People magazine she was joining OnlyFans. Okay. She's choosing it allows her to connect directly with my audience, create on my own terms, and be free. Okay. Show off a sexy side. Well, yes, that's the whole idea of OnlyFans. Okay. Anyway, the bottom line is here's the interesting tidbit here. Apparently, also, the news is reporting she generated $1 million in revenue in the first week after posting on OnlyFans. Apparently, her prior ex-husband manages her career, and he supposedly gave her the idea to go on OnlyFans. And apparently, the delay in the filing of divorce was she was living in South Africa and needed to get the legal process started in California. And here's the important tidbit here. So, some reports say that she finalized the divorce actually this month, but California has a waiting period. So the formal documents will have to get entered some months from now. I also happen to know from my California divorce lawyer friends that even when you get your documents done, the court system is so slow that if you're waiting for the actual court judges to enter your settlement documents, it can take weeks or longer. And so they usually hire private judges, believe it or not, to get these documents finalized. But the interesting thing here is with the OnlyFans, not the OnlyFans itself, the income. She essentially started a new business and earned new income. And you say, well, doesn't he get half of that? Well, no, not in California. So California is one of the few states in the U.S. There's 8 community property states. It's one of the few community property states. And one of the interesting things is that when you file for divorce, that cuts off the community. There's no more new community property. After separation is technically the law. Now, get your own attorney and get your experienced California divorce attorney for advice. This is not legal advice. This is just me telling you my knowledge of it. But you are not creating new shared property after you're separated. And there's arguments sometimes in California about when the date of separation is, but the date divorce is filed is for sure the date of separation. So by law, that is absolutely the cutoff, but you could argue it's sooner, like you moved out and stuff like that, established a separate household. There's law about what consists of a separation, but the easiest thing is just file. And then it's clear. And then there's no surprise that she started her OnlyFans 2 days after, because she didn't want to share any of this revenue with the soon-to-be ex-husband. So that's the deal. No children, no public asset disputes reported. So that's the scoop. So date of separation is very important. It's possible that the data separation that was reported in September of 25, it could relate back to that. But I think she was being safe, rather safe than sorry, by filing and then starting the OnlyFans 2 days later to be absolutely safe. Okay. In Illinois, it's a tougher situation. I would not recommend you start your OnlyFans during the divorce case unless you want to show, well, that's aside from the question of should you be even on OnlyFans, that's your business. But the thing I'm saying is, do you want to share your income with your soon to be ex? And if the answer is no, you need to wait till your divorce is done. Okay. So the next point here is, yeah, okay, so it's either good lawyering, she got good legal advice, or it was good luck on her part. I'm sure it was good legal advice. So the divorce isn't actually finalized. The headlines say finalized. It's not finalized. It's going to be final in the fall because of the time it takes to wait since she was out in South Africa. So that is the one other important note here is jurisdiction is really important. Like what state you're in, what country you're in is very important in terms of where your divorce is filed. So if you don't have children, there can be battles over what state the court will decide your case in, depending on where you both live, where the assets are, where the income is generated. We occasionally run into these multi-state cases, especially when income is more mobile than ever. Assets are more mobile than ever. People can move all around the country. We're seeing people leave New York and Illinois and go to Texas and Florida. For example, people moving from California to Texas, et cetera. And this is creating some of these jurisdictional issues because the laws are different between these states and there can be a material advantage to taking a case to another state. Okay. Next story up. This one is about Kimora Lee Simmons. Okay, this is interesting. Let me take 1 second to take a breath. Because I'm talking wall to wall here. So normally Rahul gives me a break. So Kimora Lee Simmons' estranged husband filed for divorce from federal prison. Okay, what's the deal on this? And he wants her to pay spousal support. So we got this story by E! News. You'll see this in our show notes. And husband Tim Leisner filed for divorce while in prison for his involvement in a Malaysian embezzlement scheme. Okay, requesting joint custody and spousal support. Of course, he can deal with that from jail. He filed for divorce in April 20 while serving time in prison for the Malaysian embezzlement scheme, was a former Goldman Sachs banker, married in March 2014, signed the papers on February 4th, 2 days before surrendering to a federal correctional facility. Okay, so he then went into jail after that. Okay. He was seeking spousal support from the Baby Fat founder. That's her, I think, clothing line, right? And wants her to cover attorney's fees and doesn't want her to get any alimony. As for how the pair are separating their assets, he wants to keep all of the stuff from before the marriage, which in our state is normal stuff. Then he wants to keep everything he's received by gift, miscellaneous personal effects. So he has reached out to Lee Simmons, but has no answer. The 50-year-old who shares 2 adult daughters with, of course, the famous Russell Simmons and a teenage son with another ex, alluded to the breakup in an interview with E! News, saying she's changed jobs. This is a quote. I've changed jobs, careers a few times, husbands, and investments. Okay. So she should also get a prenup next time. And anybody who marries her should get a prenup too, unless you're the one with if you have a lot less money, then don't worry about the prenup. So he was sentenced to 2 years in prison in May 2025. He was involved in some Malaysia development scandal. $4.5 billion stolen from a state-owned investment fund. That is crazy. So that's the scoop on that one. Let's see if there are a couple of teachable moments here. One is you're allowed to work on your case from prison. You're not denied the ability to represent yourself or have an attorney represent you. It's just going to be the communications will be a little more difficult. So, do we have a lot of experience with this? No, but occasionally it can happen. And sometimes a parent will be imprisoned and the court will suspend their visitation during that time, obviously. But here's a little interesting thing for you to know. Just because somebody's been to jail or been imprisoned or convicted of a crime doesn't mean they're not going to have access to their children. The court will evaluate things from a best interest standpoint, but remember the court's general motivation and the public policy of the state and all 50 states is that a child should have a relationship with both parents. So, provided the parent can maintain a basic, decent behavior, the court will see to it that the child has some contact with the parent. So, and obviously, depending on the circumstances. And one thing I tell potential clients is even abusers see their children under very controlled circumstances and depending on the nature and circumstance of the situation. So, people can recover and do better in the future. And the court will give people a second chance. So keep that in mind. Just because this guy's in jail for this crime doesn't mean he won't see his children at some point in some occasions, and doesn't mean he won't be able to have decision-making ability over the children later on after he gets out of prison and visitation with these kids. So it's just something to know because it's not just carte blanche like or an automatic thing like, oh, he's in jail, so he'll never see those kids again. It doesn't work like that because we're thinking about it again from the kid's perspective. The kids should see their father, generally speaking, assuming the father is good to them at a certain baseline level. Okay. Now we've got the revert. We had Sia last episode paying support, we had Sia paying child support to her ex. Now we have Leisner asking Kimura to pay spouse support and cover legal fees. 2 female celebrity breadwinners and 2 guys asking for support in the last couple shows. Remember, folks, the law is gender neutral and the math is just the math. When you run those equations, who earns more pays. It doesn't matter who the guy or the lady is and stuff like that. And this sometimes drives our female clients crazy. And they say, well, the guy should get a job. And well, this guy in prison can't get a job except making license plates, I guess. But they're going to say, well, he should get a job and work more and all that stuff. And the stuff guys would say 30 years ago about their stay-at-home wives not making a living. Well, the shoe's on the other foot now where the women are the breadwinners. And I understand it, but it's just the way it is. So it's just math and that's it. Can a federal inmate collect spousal support? Yeah, theoretically, sure. It's possible. So this guy, by the way, forfeited a ton of money in his deal with the government. Turns out it's $43 million, according to reports, plus $200 million in stock. That is unreal. It's gone. So a question will be, what happens with that forfeiture related to the marriage? So what's interesting there is, I'll tell you a related story. So I'm familiar with a case where there was a federal crime committed where a person had to pay restitution. And there were also unpaid taxes related to the illegally gained income because, of course, the money wasn't reported on tax returns. So the wife in that case, the husband was the one convicted of the crime and required to pay restitution. Well, the money had come into the marriage during this period of time. And during the divorce, the wife tried to throw the husband under the bus and say, well, that wasn't me. That was all his fault. He committed a crime. I shouldn't have to pay the taxes or the restitution. And the court disagreed. And you say, well, that's shocking. Why is that? Well, the restitution and the penalties and taxes are a marital debt. Why is that, you say? Because the illegally gained money came into the marriage and they used it to buy stuff. So she gained from the crime. The marriage gained from the crime illegally, but it gained. So the wife then owes her share of that debt. So that's sort of shocking because you think, well, he's the bad guy, but they wouldn't have had the extra money if it wasn't for the crime. That money that came into the marriage that paid extra bills and bought things and stuff like that. So The wife's on the hook just like the husband for that amount of money. That surprises people, but that's the case. And they'll say things like, well, there's an innocent spouse exemption for taxes. There is, but it's a very narrow exception. And it's hard to prove. So in this particular case, I wouldn't bet on it. When you benefit from those gains, you're also, when you sign tax returns for your spouse, joint tax returns, you're supposed to know what you're signing. It's really not enough to claim you didn't know. The U.S. government's not happy with that answer. So it's just something to understand. Yeah, joint custody, the guy's not going to get joint custody of this child from the prison cell. When he's out, sure. So there's one other interesting note here about this guy. He previously admitted to faking divorce papers to marry Kimura in 2014, which is crazy stuff. So these are allegations I'm seeing out there. I don't personally know if this is true, but then his marriage could have been a bigamist, technically. But that's pretty rare to see stuff like that. What's interesting is when bigamy exists. So if somebody isn't truly divorced from a previous spouse, it happens once in a blue moon that somebody just didn't get the paperwork done. They think they're divorced, or people have all kinds of stories, and they marry somebody else. Technically, it's bigamy, and the marriage is invalid, and it creates all sorts of interesting problems because if you void the marriage, you have to sort of undo all the assets, and it's a big mess. But if you go back and the minute that you cut the first marriage is terminated. So if you go back and finish the divorce, let's say, and get the paperwork done, it fixes the problem with the second marriage. So it's not fatal, but you have to go back and finish the first divorce, and then you're back to normally being married. It reverts and it's okay. But if you can't get that first divorce done, theoretically, you're a bigamist, and the other person can make the marriage, have it declared invalid. I mean, this is so rare. You hear about this once every maybe 10 years in our practice or something like that, but it does happen. So pretty interesting. So let's talk a little bit about, I want to go into briefly the truancy thing. So a little bit of a legal deep dive here. When your child's school attendance becomes a custody factor, this is relevant to the first story we talked about. We talked about Drew Sidora losing primary custody, okay? So because of excessive school absences. This isn't as rare, as I mentioned, as it might seem. A parent who's really neglectful of the children can definitely lose physical custody. Or have visitation curtailed, have the child move to the other parent's home where they can be better cared for. So it's a real thing. So every state has a legal duty for parents to get their children to school. It's part of their school code. And if there's chronic truancy, what ends up actually happening is the school gets more involved and will come over to your house and make sure that the child's going to school. If that doesn't work, it can actually get escalated to DCFS, the Department of Children and Family Services. And the state can actually intervene if you don't get your child to school, unless you're doing appropriate homeschooling. And there's an exception, but you have to show that you're doing that, or you can't just not have the kids show up to school. There will be escalating involvement from the state government. And I'm not here to talk about the politics of that, but that is how it works. And tying into our custody framework, the best interest of the child is one of the things is the child getting education and nutrition and all that stuff. And if a parent is neglecting that, the other parent can take them to court and seek a change. And it does happen. So you've got to look, what's the documentation for the truancy? The school will have the records. What's the documentation of absences? Failures to remediate. So has the parent done anything to fix it? And that's what happened in the Sidora case. She just wasn't doing anything about it, and there was documentation. Um, or it's truancy coupled with other things, poor nutrition, the person's missing the doctor and dental appointments. They're just neglecting to take care of the child. And it becomes a major best interest of the child issue. So if you've got, it's not common to see just truancy being the issue, but if it's really bad, it would be. But what you'll see is truancy combined with like the doctor and missing doctor's appointments, missing dental appointments, the parents just not taking care of the child. So that's what the case law talks about. And so, interestingly enough, excessive truancy federally, I got some interesting research for reporting. It's 10% of school years absent. Illinois is 5% without valid cause of missed school. Divorce judges are going to need a repeated pattern over an extended time. I don't think it's going to be a magic number, but the judge is going to want to see not just a few things. They're going to want to see a pattern and practice over an extended time. Call it a period of months before the judge is going to get concerned or take some action. What you are dealing with, if you're the parent on the other side of this, you want the records and you need to read them and analyze them and see what we're talking about. Take it to a skilled divorce attorney who has experience to see, is this enough to sustain this kind of motion? If it's small time, like a few absences or truancy things, it's not going to be enough. So you really want to know what that attendance record really says, not just your guesses. You got to look at the documents from the school. Document medical absences and missed dental appointments, things like that. Keep a record with the date, times, and what happened. And document your attempts to get the other parent to do it. So your emails, I like emails because they're easy to preserve. Text messages, you can screenshot them, but it's just harder to get a hold of it. It's so much easier to go in your email and look at your sent emails and pull them up by searching them. So then you're documenting your attempts to get them to comply. Like, hey, the child was absent yesterday. You need to get them there on time. Not only are they absent, but you're warning them and they're not taking action. Document communication with the school. You're talking to the school. You're asking them what's going on. And then they're responding you to saying, so-and-so, the other parent, isn't communicating with us. Whatever, gathering evidence is crucial. If there's a school refusal issue, you need a diagnosis, not just the child saying so. It's not enough to just say, no, my kid doesn't want to go to school. And do not argue with school staff. You're going to lose that one every time. So that's really the playbook there. And be ready for the other side to claim you're just using this as a gimmick to try to get the child and change child support and stuff like that. So, in my book, I talk about how parents need to cooperate on this stuff, but the planning spouse should identify the weak spots in their own situation and in their soon-to-be exit situation before the case even starts. And planning is very helpful to get ahead in these cases. So that's important to keep in mind. Okay, give me one sec here. Okay, so we're going to move on to another thing here. We're going to have a parent question. Okay, this is a good one. This is from the Illinois Divorce Support Network, our private Facebook group, free to join, anonymous to post, and we answer all of your questions. So do other people in the group, which is awesome. 1,600 plus members and growing every day. Great group of people. Illinois specific. You can join if you're out of Illinois, but we're answering Illinois questions. So again, free to join. We just need your email address, and we just send you our newsletter. That's it. It's good stuff. It's not spam. Question from the group. Is it recommended to push back against GAL recommendations? She's working on a temporary recommendation with the child exchange being 30 miles from my home and 20 from the other parents. This has me driving 1 hour and the other parent driving 30 minutes. I've expressed it must be like an urban, then suburban or a rural thing to make the time difference this much. If they're 1 hour, the other person's half an hour. I've expressed wanting to be of equal distance, but she's pushing back, saying that exchange place is easier for the other parent to get off the freeway too. Has anybody dealt with this? Okay. These parents are far apart. That is initially one or both parents' problems. So to start, to frame this correctly, one of them created this problem. Okay. To make everybody's life easier, they should live close to each other if they have children. I'm just saying it. Maybe I'm not popular or whatever, but that's the fact. And if you get together with somebody new and they live some faraway place and you want to go there, you're begging for trouble and you're going to buy problems. And here's a problem. These people are 50 miles apart. Well, I guess 30 miles from their home and 20 from the other parent. I don't quite know, but they're a long way apart. And anything is going to be a compromise. First of all, this poor kid has to go an hour and a half to go to the one parent's house, which is ridiculous. So I feel for this child being jerked around like this, but these folks have made this decision and here we are. So the answer is, can you push back against the guardian? So I'm going to address this particular issue and then talk about the guardian in general. So these distance cases aren't easy, and the guardian and the judge are going to have to make some kind of compromise that's not going to be perfect. So there's a time and distance issue that everybody has to wrestle with. And it might be that there's no good pickup drop-off location if it's a rural situation. It's just going through the boonies on a 2-lane highway where there's nothing but farmland or something. It might be that this is a McDonald's or some place where it's like safe to exchange the child and not in the middle of nowhere, like trunk to trunk, like a drug deal. So we don't know all the facts here and what the guardian's considerations are. I'm guessing there's a good reason to not just go halfway. If you live close together, these aren't an issue. People just drive one way, drop off, and the other person goes the other way, drops off or whatever. But here we have people meeting in the middle, which happens in these long distance deals. So let's zoom out and talk about the guardian. The guardian ad litem is a lawyer typically hired by the judge to represent the child's interest in the case and to be the eyes and ears of the court when we're dealing with custody situations. The guardian evaluates the situation when there's a dispute. If the parents agree to stuff, there's no need for a guardian. If these people could have worked it out, there wouldn't be a guardian, but they couldn't be nice in the sandbox. So here we are with a guardian. So one thing I would say to this person, and this isn't nice, but I'm the weatherman. I don't make the weather. It's you bought this problem because you couldn't work out an agreement. Now, I don't want to get on their case too much because it might be the other spouse that's the problem. We don't know. But one of the two people or both of them has gotten into a place where a guardian is involved. And that's on one or both of them. So sorry, but the guardian's going to make recommendations, and the judges typically are going to follow those recommendations. Not always, but typically. Can you push back against the guardian's recommendations? Well, guardians hold a tremendous amount of power and influence before the court. People will complain about this, and sometimes rightly so. Some guardians don't do a great job. They're human. Some of them hurry up and they don't come up with the best decision. They're trying. Also remember, one or both parties will be unhappy with the guardian's recommendation because it is a compromise. Well, one of two things. It's halfway. It's some kind of compromise like it is in this case, or it's sort of a win for one and a loss for the other. When one person says they want sole custody, the guardian has to pick sides. One person's not going to love it. So this is kind of like you broke it, you bought it to some extent. Again, I don't know if this person brought this on them. It's not their fault. Maybe it isn't their fault at all. But would you push back against recommendations is the question. Step one is talk to your divorce lawyer and ask them, because they know the guardian and the judge in the situation. They know the meta case. Talk about the meta case, I believe, chapter 8 in my book. It's the case around the case. It's not the facts and the law. It's who are the players? How does the judge perceive you? How does the guardian perceive you? Are you seen as the reasonable person? Are you seen as the jerk, etc.? And how do you improve your meta case? How your lawyer behaves matters. How you behave matters. So I don't know the meta case, but the guardian is thinking about all this stuff, and so is the judge. So here we are. Do we push back? First, check with your attorney. They know the meta case. They know whether it's worth doing or not. Or will it just annoy the guardian? Two, you can push back, but start with asking nicely. You can catch more flies with honey. So if it's just you, you can approach the guardian, or you with your lawyer can approach the guardian and say, hey, we don't like this, but I insist that you have an alternative plan and a reason for it. Don't just say, I don't like it. You better have a good plan in your pocket and give it to the guardian and say, here's one that's halfway and here's a good place we can meet. This is going to work better because it's equitable. We each driving an equal distance, whatever. Okay. Well, you give them a solution. I always tell my lawyers, give the judge a solution. Don't just give them a problem. Make life easy for everybody. So give the guardian a workable solution and you have a much better chance at doing well. And don't bitch about the other person. Just talk about it from the child's standpoint. Remember, best interest of the child. How will this help the child? Well, halfway is nice. Then we can get a pop and something to eat halfway and then go on our way back to my place, whatever. There might be some rationale you can explain that makes sense other than just the fairness thing. And remember, the guardian's looking out for the kid, not for you. So you may not like the longer drive, but the guardian might have a good reason for it. So I would start by asking questions. Why did you pick this location? Why do you think it's better? And hear them out. You might find a reason that you can attack nicely and say, well, no, actually, there's another place right here that's just as good. And that's closer, whatever. But hear them out first. Don't jump down their throat. And then you can propose an alternative. That's my suggestion on that one. So, okay. One last thing here. We want to talk about the lighter side. To help you get, you may not want to get married, but if you want to find a mate, we're here to help you. Well, even if you want to stay unmarried, that's cool. I do recommend you get married. And if it's your second marriage, for sure, get a prenup. If you have stuff to protect, get a prenup. Consult with us at STG Divorce Law, Chicago's best divorce law firm, if you need a prenup. And remember, we're the law firm that helps smart, successful people get divorced in Chicagoland. We also help smart, successful people get prenups in Chicagoland. Okay. This is our fun dating trends section. And we got this 8-week dating rule. Okay, let's talk about this. We got the great Bruce Lee. Is the 8-week dating rule valid? There are risks in waiting too long for commitment. What is the 8-week dating rule? You say, well, it kind of speaks for itself, right? The 8-week dating rule says by that time, a person you're dating, you know their intentions. If you haven't had the talk about going exclusive after a couple months, chances are it's not happening. The person might see you as like friend zone material, not significant other material. If it's not happening by 8 weeks, it's probably not happening. And he actually, Bruce Lee, to his credit, by the way, not the martial arts expert, may he rest in peace, but the great Dr. Bruce Lee, PhD, he calculates the minutes, 80,639 minutes apparently in 8 weeks, but no commitment to exclusivity. The 8-week dating rule has been popularized on social media, and he digs into it. And the rationale is it gives you enough time to see what's the story with the other person. I guess some of that matters on how many dates you've had in that period of time, how much you've seen them. So it makes sense enough, Dr. Lee says. And, the question is, why hasn't the other person committed? Assuming you're interested in a relationship with commitment. So either they don't value you enough that they don't fear losing you. They're just not that into you. They're looking for other options and that kind of thing. And so you might not be sending out vibes that you want to be exclusive. So if this stuff isn't happening in 8 weeks, it could be you, it could be them. So it's fair. Generally speaking, I think it's fair to ask. First of all, there's a couple things about life that my dad taught me. one of the things is if somebody's really loves you, you're going to know. It's not going to be a mystery. They'll go with you to dogfight in the alley, so to speak. They won't care if you're going to a fancy dinner somewhere or if you're going to get coffee. They just want to be with you, and you'll know. They don't need gifts. They don't need fancy anything. They are into you for who you are. And that's where the magic happens. And trust me, and I trusted my dad, you will know. You won't doubt. If you're doubting, your brain, your subconscious is telling you something, and you should listen to it if you've had any experience dating at all. So finding the right partner is finding the right mutual match. Bruce Lee says, yeah, absolutely. And if it's a she will accept one of those candy rings. I've said this before. If she loves you, you can get her one of those candy rings and she'll think it's the coolest thing ever to get engaged. Like you don't have any money, give her that candy ring. She will treasure it forever. That thing will be kept as an heirloom forever if she's into you. It's just the way it is. So keep that in mind. The 8-week rule is kind of a yardstick. If things aren't moving after a couple months, making a progression, and you're just seeing the person, it's like, oh, it's fun and whatever, and it doesn't progress, it's really telling you there's an issue. And at some point you're wasting your time, you're wasting their time and yours by pushing a situation that isn't moving forward. Look, assuming your goal is to get into a long-term relationship, and some people aren't. When you're a young person, I'm not pushing people into get long-term relationships until it's the right time, and you'll kind of know when that is. But it's like, don't do it too early and don't do it too late. And for everybody, it's a little different. But get some experience dating some people, and then there's something great about a serious long-term relationship, and you learn a lot. And you don't have to marry everybody, but getting committed to somebody for a period of time is a very special thing, and you learn a lot, and it makes you a better person. So that's my editorial comments on Bruce Lee's story. So thank you, Bruce Lee. By the way, MD, MBA, doctor, and MBA, very impressive. So that's it for the show, folks. Remember, please, to check us out online. STG Divorce Law is easy to find on Google or your favorite AI chat app. We're also all over the place on YouTube. The I Just Want This Done podcast page, the STG Divorce Law YouTube page. We're all over social media. STG Divorce Law is our handle on all the socials. My handle is at Rayford Palmer on the socials. So Instagram, TikTok, I'm on Facebook. We're everywhere. We're posting content all the time about divorce and family law. And we hope you enjoy the show. If we're doing the right thing, if we're not doing the right thing, give us comments, like, share, subscribe, especially on YouTube and, on your pod platform. That shows us that we're doing well and we're growing and we're making the right moves with this show. We want it to grow, and we hope you enjoy the show. Thanks a lot, everybody. I wish you all the best. And again, if you're thinking about getting divorced, please talk to an experienced divorce attorney before you start doing anything, or even before you say the D word to your spouse. Talk to a skilled, experienced divorce lawyer first. It's essential. Thanks, everybody, for listening. Have a great day.